I'm back in Napa visiting more top destination wineries. Today, in part 3 of my Napa series, we're rolling down the famous and beautiful back roads of the Silverado Trail, home to some of the most famous big red wineries in the world. The Silverado Trail is a 2-lane scenic route which starts in the town of Napa and terminates in Calistoga to the north. It runs parallel to Napa's main thoroughfare, Route 29, which in peak tourist season is a hot holy mess, to put it nicely. This alternate route is the road less traveled by and definitely has that more off the beaten path vibe. It's serene, and with its location running along the base of the Vaca Mountains, so much prettier. There are some pretty famous wineries along this route that I'm not visiting this time around, but are worth checking out for you wine lovers.
Of course, the award-winning Stag's Leap Wine Cellars, not winery, which is one of the grand dames of the Napa region. Mom Napa, producers of the popular sparkling wine, and Joseph Phelps Vineyard, which counts among its alumni legendary winemakers of this region like Charles Shug.
So a quick flight check before we head into Happy Land. I've got my designated driver here. Check. And my reservations here. Check. In part 1 of this series, I provide some tips and advice on how to make the most out of your Napa trip. So if you have not seen that yet, I will link to it at the end of this video. Also, a quick reminder that this series is all about the destination. So it's more about the experience of the winery rather than the product quality. That said, being Napa and Sonoma, you can't go wrong. Most everything is drinkable here, and the 3 wineries that we're featuring today are some of the best. All right, less talking, more happy. Let's go.
Starting at the northern end of the Silverado Trail near St. Helena, our first stop is at Quintessa in the Rutherford AVA.
The winery was founded in 1989 on 280 acres of virgin Napa soil by Agustin and Valeria Hunes, who are Chilean vintners that immigrated to the United States and now own several wineries across the country. The name Quintessa is Spanish for Quinta Esencia and means the 5th element, which refers to the soul of the land. This is also the philosophy behind the winery: good stewardship and taking good care of the land. Now, I will caveat that their son Augustine Jr. was caught up in that whole Varsity Blues scandal, so if you have ethical reasons for not visiting this vineyard, you have been forewarned. We've booked the winery tour and tasting, so let's go in and check it out.
We're going off-roading to the lookout point where our tour will begin. 280 acres is huge, so Quintessa has about 26 vineyard blocks and a variety of different grapes. Valeria is a microbiologist, so it was important to set up Quintessa as a biodynamic farm, meaning use of organic materials and leveraging the natural environment to control production. Our rosé done, we head back to the winery. Facility also reflects this vision. Form follows function. Behind the retaining wall, the 17,000 square foot winery is dug into the bottom of a hillside and harnesses nature to aid in the winemaking process. Openings in the roof take advantage of gravity, so processed grapes can be dropped directly down into tanks for fermentation. Quintessa uses the trendier concrete tanks, cleaner stainless steel, and within the last few years, 100% oak barrel fermentation. Below the fermentation rooms is the wine cave where all the barrels are stored. Remember that the winery is subterranean? Well, the earth naturally keeps the caves cool, and this neato fountain is not only pretty, but also helps maintain humidity. See? Form, function. Tour done, our little group reconvenes in the visitor center, which sits atop the winery. It's an intimate space with decidedly Chilean decor, and we get our own little tasting room in the back. Today, we'll be tasting their Illumination White, followed by 3 vintages of their signature Quintessa Red. The Illumination Sauvignon Blanc is a newer wine that they started producing around 2002, initially intended for the Hunes' personal use, but it was such a hit with VIPs and sommeliers that they now produce a limited number of commercial bottles every year. Yummy. Quintessa only produces 1 premium Cabernet Sauvignon vintage each year. It takes 2 years to blend all the lots to achieve their signature red blend for that vintage, which can be very different from previous years. Here, we get to do a back-to-back tasting of the 2016, 2014, and 2013. Wow, each is so unique. Back on the Silverado Trail, heading south to the legendary Stag's Leap AVA for our tasting and lunch at Clos Du Val.
Clos Du Val, which in French means the walled winery of the valley, is another historical estate that was opened in 1972 by American businessman John Galette, who hired French winemaker Bernard Portet to head up the original planting of the vineyards and the wine producing operations. Portet was trained in classical Bordeaux style winemaking, and their first ever vintage was selected for the very prestigious Judgment of Paris competition, which is a pretty big feat. In 1976, it took 8th place out of 10, but 10 years later in the rematch, it won the competition. In fact, the name of the private road as you drive up is called Steve Spurrier Way in honor of the British winemaker who founded the competition.
This new, beautiful hospitality center called the Hirondelle House, named after the sparrows that come and build nests on Clos Du Val's winery in the spring and summer, was just opened in October 2018. It's got that very distinctive contemporary inside-outside California-style architecture that is classic Napa. The interior is like a really comfortable living room and paneled with oak staves repurposed from old wine barrels. Signature 60-foot-tall sliding doors lead out to a 3,000-square-foot patio where you can sip wine and enjoy the views. We're going to start our tasting with a nice crisp Chardonnay while we unwind to the soothing sounds of the fountain. Then we move to a covered table where our feast is spread out waiting for us.
Today we've decided to lunch here and we're doing the picnic experience. It includes 2 box lunches from celebrity chef Thomas Keller's Bouchon Bakery. I got the caprese sandwich. So it's on a focaccia, and it's got the tomatoes and the mozzarella inside. It's yummy. And each box lunch also includes an apple. And then the cookie in here. Yummy, look at that, it's the size of my face. So Mike, what did you get?
I got a tuna mouton de soie from Bouchon. Can't wait to dig in.
Well, Clos Du Val is primarily known for its Cabernet Sauvignons. Today we're going to try out their 2014 Petit Verdot single varietal, which just simply means they're using 100% Petit Verdot grapes. Petit Verdots are very bold in flavor and heavy on the tannins, and in general they're used sparingly in blends, mainly for a little bit of depth of flavor, which is kind of what Clos Du Val did originally with their Petit Verdot. But what they found was that the Petit Verdot grapes took so much better to Napa than they did back in native France that they were able to make a complete wine out of this.
The label always features an illustration of 3 women known as the 3 Graces, as Goletta once owned the bronze sculpture of that name. He donated it to the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston in 1976. The 3 women represent splendor, mirth, and joy. Oh, so idealistic. We're getting back on the Silverado Trail to our final destination at the southern end, known as the Oak Knoll AVA, the majestic Darioush Winery.
This place is pretty spectacular, but seems a little bit out of place in this rustic Napa landscape. But hear me out. The owner, Darioush Khalede, is from Iran, the modern-day country of Persepolis. Iran's 5th largest city, Shiraz, is where the ancient and popular red wine, Shiraz, originates. In modern times, the identical Syrah grape is grown here in Napa, one of the few microclimates worldwide that can support it. So see? Not so weird.
The winery and tasting room building is modeled after the ancient palace at Persepolis, which, funny enough, was built by Darius the Great. Darius, get it? It's got all the hallmarks of ancient Persian architecture, with the tall, wide doors and windows, marble columns, reliefs, and the long, wide, airy walkways and fountains. Is it ostentatious? Why, yes, but I think most people would agree that Persian architecture tends to be flamboyant. But the environment is also warm and inviting, and you are greeted with that legendary Iranian hospitality. Check out this neat feature. The tabletop looks down into the wine cellars. And that's it from underneath. See? Today, we're taking the portfolio tasting out on their shaded patio with a spectacular winery as backdrop. This area was burned down in the 2017 fires and had to be rebuilt.
So, what are we tasting today?
We start off the tasting with a younger 2017 Bordeaux-style Chardonnay, which is just fancy speak for a more mineral-tasting light.
That's delicious, super crisp and refreshing.
There are 3 vineyards. The 33 acres out back of the winery are their oldest and cultivate exclusively Bordeaux-style grapes, specifically Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Shiraz. These grapes go into some of their more premium wines, such as the 2016 Merlot, the 2016 Shiraz. The city of, incidentally, is also where the Khalidis met. Full circle, baby.
Big, bold wine.
And the 2016 Cabernet Sauvignon.
That was a perfect way to end our mini tour of the Silverado Trail. We're going to pack up now and head back over the bridge into civilization. I'm going to leave you with some words of wisdom from the great George R.R. Martin. Wine makes everything possible. Till the next time, peace.